And welcome back to the Hot Lap. Congratulations, Charlie Leclerc on pole. What a lap, what a session. One of the most exciting of the season because, let's be honest, in Q3 it could have been one of a number of drivers. But massive congratulations to Charles Leclerc. So coming up, we've got our qualifying winners and losers. We're going to be talking about those Mercedes updates. Did they work for Hamilton but not work for Russell? Verstappen lows, Norris's highs, and we'll end up taking a look at that grid for the Grand Prix on Sunday, tomorrow obviously being the sprint race. But wow, I mean, Charles Leclerc on pole. But let's get into our winners and losers. So obviously, winner, chicken dinner. The big smile on his face there. Charles Leclerc on pole. He could have been one of a number of drivers on pole. He was the one that did not make a mistake. He went for it. He absolutely nailed it, let's be honest. Verstappen ended up not doing a great lap, but Charles Leclerc did. An awesome position. Bearing in mind, a Ferrari started on pole last time for the race, and it didn't do so well with Russell and Sainz. So Leclerc has kind of been in the shadows of Carlos Sainz, I think, of the last few races, maybe, especially after Sainz's win. He did better at that last race, but wow, potentially a victory there for Charles Leclerc. So let's look at let's look at our other winner. The next winner, Lando Norris. I think McLaren going in, we all knew how strong they were. They didn't look, they look good, but I don't think anyone thought they'd be a contender for pole position, particularly Lando. He didn't really do a fast lap on the mediums, kept on those mediums in that really important practice session, but he was looking good. All that pressure on as well, with everyone talking about his teammate Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris starting second. Well done. So, not so well done. Well, yes, certainly not so well done. He's looking very upset there. Obviously a bit tongue-in-cheek. But Max Verstappen messing up on both of his Q3 laps. Is the pressure getting to him? I mean, this was one of the most heavily contested qualifying sessions. And unlike Singapore, where it kind of was not quite a given, but yeah, it would have been almost a surprise at that point for Red Bull to be on pole. They had a genuine chance to be on pole. And Max Verstappen, he messed up, kind of blamed it on Perez. We'll get into that in the show. And, well, he went over the white line. So, but Max Verstappen will be coming strong in the race. I still think he's favourite in that race in the Circuit of Americas. But another loser, maybe we are a tiny bit harsh, but another guy, Lance Stroll, another really, really average qualifying session. He does have a get-out, though. He didn't do very well in practice, not many laps. But, I mean, I think the whole of the Aston Martin team get a big L for qualifying because both him and Alonso did not do very well despite these upgrades. So maybe we're being a bit cruel, but I'm still not over him pushing one of his trainers. But that's not the reason there. I mean, let's just say the whole of the Aston Martin team have not done very well at all. So poor old Lance Stroll there, but we're going to have to add Fernando Alonso to it too. I mean, one of the best drivers. And I don't know what happened. They just couldn't get it in. Did their upgrades work? Because we know Fernando is still one of the best drivers. But poor Fernando, poor Lance Stroll, poor Aston Martin. I mean, they're starting 17th and 19th. Oh my gosh, disaster! I think. I reckon for disaster for basically the whole weekend. Now, what does that mean for sprint qualifying? So, not good. But let's get into that grid, shall we? So, we've got obviously Leclerc on pole, only just, but it was obviously Verstappen. If you were watching it, that went fastest, but got that time deleted, and it is very, very close here. We got obviously Q1, Q2, and Q3. Pole being a 1:34.723. So we're talking just, got pole by just over a tenth for Lando Norris, and Lewis Hamilton right there, just hundredths behind Norris. It'll be interesting though, because when they interviewed the top three after qualifying, they were basically saying that second place quite often goes into the lead more often into that first corner. They normally take the lead more often than not. So it's going to be really interesting with that dynamic. I mean, obviously we've got Carlos Sainz in fourth, and there's Russell. Yep, Russell starting behind Carlos Sainz. Remember what happened last year? Whoops, at AZ Russell. I mean, even he's come out and said, yeah, I deserve that penalty. It's going to be interesting. But the biggest surprise, sixth, for Max Verstappen. Wow. He had the car. I think, like anyone, I think it's definitely in the top four. But let's be honest, Russell's not that far off either. But anyone, I think, in the top six could potentially have had that pole position, including Verstappen. He ended up going slower when you look at it, 35.081. He ended up going slower when you look at his runs than the Q2. And he didn't, that really good Q1 lap, he actually only really improved by about, 3/10. Well, 135, 135, 346, 135.008 and a 135.081. So it's going to be interesting. He just didn't improve as much. I think, though, he had the car to get pole. Gasly, really, really strong there from Gasly in the AlphaTauri team. Well done him. He's not done too bad. They're not the AlphaTauri. What am I talking about? No, goodness me, in the Alpine. My apologies. I was living in 2022. So we've got Gasly in 7th and Ocon in 8th. That Alpine is looking quite rapid here, doesn't it? And, well, I mean, he nearly made it to be one of the losers, but to be fair to him, he's within a 10th of Verstappen, is 9th, Perez. And I think when we get into that article about the Red Bull team, it would appear that the bumps, as we suggested in our preview show, have an effect on Red Bull. And Piastri 10th, disappointing for Piastri. Bearing in mind, your teammate is obviously faster than you, but there we go. Not great for Piastri at all, but we'll get into that. Sonoda 11th, out qualifying Ricciardo, who unfortunately just ends up 15th. But Ricciardo, to be fair, when you look at the two times between Sonoda and Ricciardo, there's not that much of a difference. We're talking less than 3/10. So it's not. I don't think it's really that bad for Ricciardo's return. Zhou obviously out qualifying Bottas, which is significant. I think he's doing really, really well in this second half of the season. He's had some really solid races. Magnussen in the top Haas, kind of disappointing because Haas brought all their upgrades to this race. But obviously Ricciardo 15th, 16th is Hulkenberg. 17th is Alonso. Really disappointing for both Hulkenberg and Alonso. What is going on with Aston Martin? They kind of gone backwards this year from the second fastest car to what looks like the second slowest car. But I do think there's a lot more speed in there. I reckon, just got the setup completely wrong. Albon in 18th. Obviously, Lance Stroll we've spoken about. And Logan Sargent, the Williams, didn't look too bad in practice. And even in Q1 initially, it looked okay. But poor old Logan Sargent starting last in his home Grand Prix. So, one of the reasons that Hamilton, I think, got third was those Mercedes upgrade. There he is in that beautiful car. So, this is from racefans.net. Mercedes upgrade is one of the first that I can actually feel in 2 years, says Lewis. He says he can feel the difference that the upgrade that Mercedes have brought to the United States Grand Prix, unlike a lot of other changes that they've made to the car. Bearing in mind, in 2022, they made changes to the car, and a lot of them didn't really work, and it was only around Silverstone it worked really well. From Silverstone onwards, it wasn't too bad, and I do think they brought something to the US Grand Prix which kind of made it work as well, because Hamilton was quite happy there. But anyway, I digress. The team, they brought a revised floor for this weekend, and it's strive to keep the pace with McLaren and Ferrari, but Mercedes have been really, really open about the fact that this floor is potentially going to be key to their car next year. So after taking third on the grid, though, for Sunday's Grand Prix, Hamilton said, I don't know really if it's a signifier of anything for next year, but he's encouraged and he can feel the difference. He said, as we continue to experiment, we get more and more knowledge of where we're going, where we're seeing the flow of the car, he explained. The floor's not a huge amount different. There's always hype with someone's upgrade, but the rest of the car is exactly the same, and there's lots and lots of areas in which we can improve. He went on to say, but this is an improvement. This is one of the first upgrades that I've actually felt over the last 2 years, so that's a positive. We just need 2 or 3 times of this step to put us in super competitive mode, which I believe the guys can do. He went on to say, saying Hamilton qualified. He said the car, the W14, feels it's just leveled up in pretty much everywhere following that upgrade. He went he went on saying, "I'm really grateful for the improvements that the team have made with the car. Everyone's worked so hard to bring some upgrades for us to be this close to McLaren, Ferrari and even the Red Bulls. I think it's a showing of just how hard everyone's worked." He's not ruled out a win, but I do feel that, joking aside, I do think Verstappen, I'd probably still put Verstappen as favourite going into it. So, what happened to Aston Martin? Well, if we get in here, Fernando Alonso said a terrible session of Friday practice set the scene. They bought an upgrade package to Austin, but he's saying they struggled in FP1, and Lance obviously not having many laps at all. So it was just really Alonso doing the legwork, and he was limited to the next lowest of 19 laps. Now, after being eliminated in 17th, 2 places ahead of Stroll, Alonso said it was simply the best he could do. He said no, it was the maximum. He said the lap was not ideal. The outlap, especially the traffic, was very bad to manage. I think I crossed the line within 1 second of the limit, so I started the lap too close to the cars in front. That didn't help, but the lap felt okay, and the pace was maybe not good enough to get into Q2. Let's see tomorrow if we can do a good sprint, because Sunday's race is heavily compromised now. Now, Alonso admits that he has limited feeling with the upgraded car as a result of the issues he faced in FP1. Now, while Stroll was also unable to offer up any relevant data, he said we should go back and complete the day completely. Starting from the morning, we had a terrible session. Alonso was saying Lance didn't complete any laps. I only did 6 or 7 quality laps with that new package. Too many unknowns in terms of how to operate the package and the new car. So I think we went a little bit blinded to qualifying, and obviously we see the result. So moving on from more woes, it was Max Verstappen. I mean, there is that, this is from motorsport.com, but there is that very, very nice, very, very beautiful, I think. Some people not a fan, I think it looks really nice. Stars and stripes for the American Grand Prix. I kind of feel they should do special liveries for every country. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Why America? Well, it has a massive audience and it's already got 3 Grand Prix. Some people think that's too much, but I do think when you actually look at how big the United States is, I definitely get why they have more. I definitely get why they have more than one race. It's just the track that they choose to race in, which is scratching my head. But this one is certainly one of the, I think, like Hamilton said, he loved this track. I do feel it's one of the favourites, and it's becoming one of the favourites now. It's since 2012, so over a decade of American F1, and I think it's a lot better than the Indy circuit, which it wasn't really an afterthought. I think it was a solid go, but this one really feels like the home now of the United States Grand Prix. But anyway, so Verstappen, who was crowned a 3-time champion last time out, crossed the line in the dying moments to post what was a 1:34.718, the fastest lap. But despite that handing to a provisional pole by 0.005 thousandths of a second, he had his time deleted. Now, as a result, Leclerc, it said, will lead the front row over McLaren Lando Norris. Verstappen, he explained that his uncharacteristic error, which he said was a close call, with the result of trying to make up time, lost at turn 1. He kind of like locked his brakes up at turn 1, and when he appeared to adjust for an under-rotating car to turn in to later to run wide of the apex, he said, I knew in turn 19 that it was going to be a close call. I had a little mistake in turn 1, so I had to really push for it with the rest of the lap. It is fine margins. He said, honestly, I didn't even understeer. I just tried to really maximise the corner and I misjudged it by a little bit. It's a very fine margins when you're pushing the limit. Now, of course, it's a bit unfortunate, but it makes Sunday also a bit more fun. So Verstappen acknowledged that there were a lot of things to improve ahead of the sprint qualifying and that shortened race on Saturday. And he continued, it's probably not ideal, but I've also started from the back. It's all about if you have a good place, you will pass, but you move forward. So just keep an eye on it. Now, of course, we want to win. For sure, today was not ideal. But like I said, it's still a long race where a lot of things we can do better and have a bit of fun out there as well. Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez clocked 9th, which I think was normally disappointing in qualifying. However, when you think about it, he was so close to Verstappen, you can't be disappointed with him at all, I think. So he did I think that's kind of okay at the moment for him. But I think potentially we could be going into a really, really exciting US Grand Prix. I mean, I'm excited for it, definitely. So tune in to the Hot Lap. We'll be having a show after the sprint race to talk about the sprint qualifying and actually talk about the race itself and what kind of a clue that race is going to give us for Sunday. But let's quickly remind ourselves of the winners and losers of qualifying. We've got winner Charles Leclerc. Look at that happy face there. What an absolute sensational lap he did. And he kept it between the white lines, unlike some. So our next winner is going to be Lando Norris. I don't think anyone expected his McLaren to be on that front row. He said he could have got pole, but well done, Lando Norris. Could he win the race? Who knows? Our first loser, Max Verstappen, making 2 mistakes on both his laps. Could have got pole, did get pole, then got that time taken away. Poor, but our next loser is Lance Stroll and the Aston Martin team right at the back. Out of Q1 straight away. And also poor old Fernando Alonso as well. What is going on with Aston Martin? I really feel for them. Has that upgrade package made them go backwards? Are they the second slowest team? Who knows? Tune in for our sprint race review. This has been the Hot Lap. We will speak to you next time.